Hey guys, it's Iz, and welcome back to another Genshin Impact lore video. I've been doing a lot of thinking and I'm going to take a break from the storytelling of characters' lore for a while, just so I can get some theories that I've had out of the way. So what can we find out about the Four Winds of Mondstadt? The Four Winds of Mondstadt comprise of the Wolf of the North, Dragon of the East, Falcon of the West, and the Lion of the South. So we obviously know that the wolf is Andreas and Devalin is the Dragon of the East. The Falcon of the West is actually Vanessa, the hero of Mondstadt who was previously the Lion of the South. And lastly, the Lion of the South is a title passed down by the Knights who is now Jean. Now, let's go over each of them one by one.
1 millennium ago, when the aristocracy fell at last from grace, the Defender of the South banished tyranny from the city gates, while the West spread her wings and took her rightful place. The Wanderer in the North settled with the Wolven race. As the four winds blew, to all corners they flew, but much was to be done to build Mondstadt anew. The animal god called on them, each one in turn. First their leader, the West Wind, though he found himself spurned. The Lion Fang Knight was less than impressed. I've no time to join you and sing, dance, and jest, for you see to these three while I handle the rest. Next did he track down that leader of wolves. Asked him to tame his most unbridled of souls. The wolf leader growled he would not be contained. "Do not lecture me, bard, you who are the least restrained." So the animal god implored the friend he'd known first to blow the ice from the face of the earth, that verdance and freedom could once more be birthed. But the dragon had known his bard god friend too long. He would not share the work, but dictate it through song.
Do some real work, Barbados.
Vanessa was actually the first of the four winds. Barbados hasn't asked anyone else to be one of the winds until right before Vanessa ascended to be the Falcon Wind of the West. Now, going in clockwise order, let's talk about the North next. Interestingly enough, although when you fight the wolf his name is Andreas, when you fight him the first time he's called Boreas, which is the name of the North Wind in Greek myth. Dragon Devalin, although his name is one of the stags of the World Tree, it could also refer to the dwarf of the same name. I believe that it is more of the stag though, since the common idea behind the winds are based on the winds bringing the four seasons, and it's kind of the same relation with the four stags. And lastly, Jean, being the Lion of the South. It is a title passed on in the Knights of Favonius, along with the title Dandelion Knight. Dandelion actually comes from the French words dandelion, I think is how you say it. I don't really know. But what is important is that it means lion's tooth. It all makes sense now as to why the Dandelion Knight is also known as the Lion Fang or Lion Tooth Knight. Another interesting thing to note is that in Jean's side story, the title of the first part is called When the West Wind Arises, since most of it is kind of referring to Jean wanting to be like Vanessa, who is now one of the four winds. Now, the idea of the four winds are pretty common throughout all countries, and although Mondstadt mainly has Germanic influences, the four winds seem to be a combination of Greek and a little bit of the Chinese four symbols, being the azure dragon, the vermilion bird, the white tiger, and the black tortoise. So mostly the style of two Mondstadt's winds have a design inspiration, of course being the azure dragon as Devalin and the vermilion bird as Vanessa, as the fiery falcon. Now, when the winds blow, they usually come from the direction that they are called from, so the north wind blows from the north going south, and so on. Now with that being said, given that they talk about directions, this is when we finally get into what this whole video is about, which is that I believe that the map that we see of Tevat is not actually in the right orientation. We can take a look inside Mondstadt, and if you look behind you and a little higher as you enter the city gates, you will see a symbol of the Lion of the South. And actually, if you go around Mondstadt, you'll find the other three right where they should be. The Dragon of the East, where you get your reputation and stuff, Wolf of the North, right in front of the church, and the Falcon of the West beside the doors of the Knights of Favonius. So great, the map is just off by a little bit. But no, you see, like I mentioned earlier, the winds come from the direction that they are called. But in addition to that, whether the entities themselves blow the wind or if they are the wind, they too must come from that direction, which means that the abode of the entities must be the basis of the direction. So we know that Andreas lives here, and Jean is obviously in the Knight's headquarters. They are actually so far making sense in directions. Now, Dvalin was in Storm Terror's lair for a while, even before he became Storm Terror, watching over the city just like in his story of Venti.
What is to be sung transpired in days of yore, when the divine archons still walked the earth. A dragon cast his curious gaze on the world below, as he parted from the heavens that gave his birth. The dragon sought truth amongst common folk, but mortal trifles only fogged his mind. The wind-born bard strummed his strings dulce, and the holy lyre answered his questions kind. The dragon was but a child full of wonder, and soared the heavens free from care. The bard's songs invited him to sing along, for he yearned to let all perceive him fair. Enchanting legends the bard and dragon were, but the tides of despair soon engulfed the land. The lion fang perished, and the falcon flag slept, as a vile dragon approached Mondstadt in lone stand. Over the cathedral loomed death and his friends. Of the people's agony, the bards soon sang. The soaring dragon heeded his grave calls, and amidst the windstorms a brutal war sprang. Blood of venom sent the sky dragon into slumber, only to awake to be expelled in abhor. Why do people in this age loathe me so? But the holy lyre replied no more. Wrath and woe, vigor and venom, poured from the dragon's bitter eyes. The dragon's curse sprawled in silence, but the lyre could no longer soothe his cries.
Now for the last, Vanessa as a falcon, you can actually consider her watching over Falcon Coast. Though you may think that's a stretch, it's actually not. Although it's widely believed to be called that because you can see falcons soaring high above the coast, I think it's because of Vanessa. Just like Wolvendom is guarded by Andreas, then Falcon's Coast is guarded by Vanessa. The place where you fight Andreas is actually his resting place, as shown by his gravestone, which is the sword. Vanessa passed in Windrise, which is where she ascended after dying, so it's safe to say that she's at least hovering in the area, with Windrise being right next to Falcon Coast. So, with all the winds in place, let's see how this map ends up. So that's how I think the map should actually look. Now, the final nail in the coffin for me is that when we finally talk to Venti after his Archon quest, when he tells us to go to Liyue, he tells us where to head, but he only says to the neighboring nation. He doesn't give us a direction. He doesn't say, go to the south of Mondstadt or anything like that. So I think the map is in a pretty open interpretation, as for now at least.
If you seek the rest of the seven, many difficulties lie ahead of you still. You should head for Mondstadt's neighboring nation of Liyue. The Geo-Archon who reigns there, unlike me, administrates his entire region personally.
So it's pretty cool that we can see the map in a different light and actually look at the implications it may have. I already have something in mind that I want to talk about next week, part 2 of this theory if you will. But tell me what you think about it so far in the comment sections below. Like and subscribe, or if you want to support me further, follow my Patreon. The link is in the description. But that's it for me, at Astra Abasosk.